Welcome. We now join Fred Kuhn and his guest.
Hi, everybody. Today we are interviewing Wayne Strickland. What a background. Former senior executive at Hallmark, 38 years in customer-facing strategy development, marketing, product roles. He is in his 35th year in business. He led the launch and development of the Hallmark greetings business across multiple Amazon platforms. He is a team leader for mass channel customers in North America, including Walmart, Sam's, Target, supermarket, and drug channels. He's an expert in leadership, and today his leadership advice and responsibilities include execution in 20,000 rooftops and management of 15,000 employees. He's a published author on the subject of leadership and communication with his publication, Get Over Yourself, Decide to Lead, Insights from Hard Lessons Learned. Welcome, Wayne.
Well, thank you. Gosh, I'm tired just listening to myself. Listening to you describe what I've been doing all these years.
Well, let's go ahead and get down to business. I want to know when you first decided to have a leadership philosophy, and why did you do that?
You know, I remember the day. It was 1989. I was in my fourth job at Hallmark, but it was my first corporate job, and had moved to Kansas City. And previous to that, I'd been a field sales person, a field sales manager. Now I'm in a corporate job, and basically my job was trying to help the corporate product teams get their product in a method that could help the salespeople sell them. So I was trying to represent the salespeople. So they need this, they need these samples and these catalogs and these kinds of things. And I found after about 4 or 5 months in the job, nobody was happy. My family wasn't very happy with me. The customers weren't very happy. Hallmark was a little grumpy. The salespeople didn't think I was giving them what they needed. Frankly, I wasn't all that happy with myself. So one day I had to just sit down with a nice cup of coffee on a Sunday morning and go, okay, what are my priorities? This thing started with, it kind of evolved to a leadership philosophy, but it started with, okay, what are my priorities? What are the things I got to make sure that each week I work on these things? And I can't make everybody happy, but I got to make some people happy, starting with myself and my family and the people to write a check and pay me every month. So I started with it's kind of priorities more than anything, but it evolved and morphed over these years to a leadership philosophy. So about 12 years later, I'm in my third VP assignment at Hallmark, and the president company called me in one day, and all good salespeople were eager to take on the next challenge and the next big job and be the chief customer officer and all that. And he called me into his office and he said, Wayne, describe your leadership philosophy to me. I grabbed a 3x5 off his desk, because that's how we did things back in that day, right? We wrote things on a 3x5. And
I remember
make
those
your
days.
sales number. Yeah, make your sales number, make your budget. And then I paused and I wrote, make your sales number. I said, there's really just two. Make your sales number, make your budget. He kind of looked at me like, what's he thinking? And he said, well, that's not exactly what I was talking about. So he assigned me an executive coach, and a lady named Ellen Cart, wonderful lady. And I had 30 minutes with her, and I said, well, maybe I can knock this out in 15 or 20. I got some stuff to do. So I met with her, and she said, what is it? And I gave her the three things, and she shook her head, and she goes, you're clueless, aren't you? I mean, you have no clue what this is. I said, well, I don't think so. This is it. Make your numbers, make your budget. And then, kind of pause. She goes, we got some work to do. And so over the next year, Fred, we started to peel this thing back and start to, just understand what a leadership philosophy is and why I was having this conversation. And come to find out, the real reason I was having the conversation, because when I first met with the president of the company, I thought he was calling me in because I was such a stud, but he really was calling me in because I was a little bit of a bully. he was more disciplined me than giving me a pat on the back. I was so full of myself at the time, I didn't realize it, right?
When I heard your first two priorities you wrote on the 3x5 card, I asked, where's the EQ? In my back of my mind, I said, where's the EQ? There's a missing component here. So, yes, I got it.
So the EQ might have been priority number 1014, only because I wouldn't have thought of anything. Wouldn't have thought of anything else. So we went through painful, what you do. You get 360 feedbacks, and they get them from customers, and they get them from your peers, and they get them from your previous bosses. And it was the most enlightening and painful experience I ever had. And I was introduced to some new terms, and one of them was derailer. And a derailer is the kind of behavior you have that get you fired. So, most people have, when they meet with their boss and they have mid-year reviews or year-end reviews, sometimes they go, hey, these are your good behaviors, these are your bad behaviors, or these are things you do really well, and these are things you don't do really well. And, like, Fred, you've been doing this for a long time. At some point you go, you're not going to be really good at some things, so you just really maximize your good behaviors and try to staff around the things you're not really good at. But I had derailing behaviors. This stuff gets you fired, right? Being a bully.
Yes.
Mine was all about being too aggressive, being a bully, being over the top, being political, working the system, all that stuff, right? Well, I thought those were good behaviors. So I had all those things in the good behavior column. And it was like rewiring a space capsule or something, and with your gloves on. You had to take all those bad behaviors, derailing behaviors, and stick them over here in the derailing column. And then what are good behaviors like collaboration and better communication and building the best team, all those kinds of things. So to a goal, yeah. The things is pretty obvious.
You're an author, so am I. My new book's called Hire the EQ, not the IQ, so I get it, what you're talking about. Absolutely.
So it was a painful process, and it took at least a year of just rewiring that. And EQ is a great word for it. Yeah, I mean, what's your EQ? I think that's what makes a great leader. If you got a great EQ, I mean, the other stuff will fall into place. And then it took another year that it's easy when it's easy, right? But it's easy to be a peacetime leader. That's what I always say. When things are going well, you're making numbers, making your budget, supply chain's good. It's easy to be a leader. But wartime leadership, when none of that's working, that's when all those bad behaviors or derailing behaviors kind of come to the surface. And you go, surely that's the right thing to do, right? Surely that should be. No, that's not good. That's not good. Be more collaborative. Work it out. Go talk to people. Don't just beat them over the head. It took another year just to kind of get into the method of practicing those good behaviors instead of pulling out those old bad habits you had and trying to work somebody over a little bit. Maybe it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. I had people they would be so nervous they wouldn't even come to work the days they're supposed to meet with me because I would be so mean to them.
That's bad.
That's bad. That's bad. It's terrible.
So you identified your derailers. You begin to work on those. You begin to develop new EQ behaviors for management. How has that changed over time? Do you continue with the same kind of approach, or have you modified it?
Oh, yeah. That's, it changes all the time. From there, I went and I had a leadership philosophy. I put this thing together and I presented to my team. And in my second book that's out on Amazon right now, it describes the process that you use to do that. And gosh, it was like night and day difference in how I work with the team, results that the team's got, and how people wanted to work with you. But it does change over time because everything changes over time. When I first wrote this thing, you didn't have text messages and you didn't have all the electronic things that we have today to communicate and all that. So it had to change to kind of work with different people, work with millennials. People want to work differently.
Yes.
That's one of the things you have to learn as a team leader is, how do people want to work? Because not everybody wants to work like you do, and not everybody wants to work like I do. And so that's one of the things you have to do to be a great team leader is to find out how people want to work. I got very comfortable telling people, hey, I've got some silly things about me. I call them my nits, N-I-T-S. I said, these are just silly behavioral things about me, but here they are. I'm just going to tell them to you, and they're kind of goofy, but they're mine. And you tell me what yours are. And then if we got some places that just don't seem like they're going to fit, we just need to work those out, right? And so that it does change over time. It's changed significantly since that first one that I wrote, in the late 1999 or early 2000s till today. It probably changes a little bit every year.
What do you think causes that change? Is it the technology driving the change? Is it the age of the workforce that's driving the change? Is it the lack of talent? What's driving that change in your philosophy?
Experience. I think you get more experiences. I've been very lucky. The last 25 years of my career, I had 9 or 10 different level VP, general manager level assignments. which are big assignments. And you get a new assignment, you get new experiences, and it teaches you something. You know, what I learned the last 3 years building our Amazon business, well, I learned a lot of things there, and it modified my leadership experience. When I ran the North American Walmart team, you know, I had a lot of demanding components to it, so it changed your leadership philosophy there a little bit too, because I had a remote team. I lived in Kansas City, but I had a big team down in Bentonville. And the way you communicate, the way you work, all that changes, right? So you have to modify your leadership philosophy a little bit to make sure it's as effective in your new role as it was in your last.
Okay. The last question that I have is, what advice would you offer to senior leadership today in developing, building teams?
Well, I think they got to be authentic and genuine, and they have to build a philosophy that works with them. I was coaching a high potential talent many years ago, and I was giving all this advice, and he looked up at me and goes, I think you're trying to teach me how to be you. I really want to learn how to be me. Oh, I guess that's right. So I think they got to be genuine. They got to be comfortable enough in their own skin to say, these are the ways I want to work, and here's how I want to work with you. And I'll just hit on a couple of real quickly, some of the things in my leadership philosophy, just to give your listeners maybe like a couple of teasers on. So what's in a leadership philosophy? Number one is the best team wins. You learn how to assemble the best team, you'll outperform all other teams over time. There's no question about it. And it's a diverse team. It's a team that'll debate, that'll challenge. And my number one goal when I took a new team, I said, I want everybody in the company to want to work on my team. Everybody wants to work here because they're going to grow and to get better. The second thing I talk about is focus on the marketplace. The ideas are in the marketplace, not in the conference room. And I think as leaders, they get a little older in their leadership styles and all that stuff, they want to sit in the conference room with other leaders, and pretty soon everybody's talking to themselves and talk themselves into an idea that really isn't very good. And the third thing I talk about is stop the drama. You know, I've been on teams before that they generated so much drama, nobody could get any work. And I think as a leader, a big job is stop the drama. And drama is, hey, we would be better if the product teams would make better product. We'd be better if the marketing was better. Right? Everybody's pointing the finger. Hey, let's do our job the best we can do it every day. And let's don't worry about anybody else. Just stop the drama. Just get our work done. And the last couple real quickly is be a great listener. I think that's a skill that has really been eroded over time now because people got it on their phones or on their laptops or on their iPads. They're not really listening. They're not paying attention. And smart people are great listeners, and they develop the 2 or 3 questions that they need to ask to get smarter. You know, back when I started, I worked with some people that were fantastic listeners, and they would ask great questions, and it would unlock all the problems. And today, I just don't think people listen. And then the last thing is, you gotta know what your brand is. And maybe that's the first thing, Fred, is do you know what your brand is? And I get a kick out of people. They go to a branding seminar or listen to a branding podcast, and they come back the next day and go, here's my brand. I'm going, no, it's not. It's not your brand. If you want to have wisdom and integrity and courageous and whatever those things are, you don't get that by proclaiming it. You get that by earning it.
That's
one
correct.
Day at a time.
That's correct.
You mean a brand is, I think Jeff Bezos said, the brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so if that wants to be your brand, you got to live up to that brand every day. You got to make decisions that align with that brand. Your behavior's got to align with that brand. Everything you do needs to align with that brand that you said you wanted to be. So you got to figure that out. And you can't do it when it's easy. You have to do it when it's hard. When
That's
it's
correct.
really, really hard to do that, you still got to be on point. Because sometimes being a leader, and maybe the most important thing in being a leader is the discipline to be the leader all the time, not just when it's easy, when it's hard. And a lot of leadership stuff, as you know, isn't difficult. It's hard to do it all the time because it's easy not to do it.
Folks, we've been speaking today with Wayne Strickland. If you want to learn more about Wayne, go to WayneStricklandSpeaking.com. You can find him on Twitter at Wayne Leadership. So, Wayne, I thank you very much on behalf of our audience for sharing your philosophy and your knowledge with us. And hopefully somebody will take it to heart and do it and make their company better. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. If you wish to speak with Fred or you want a transcript of this interview, send an email to podcast@stuartcoopercoon.com. See you soon.